Story 1. When my parents commented negatively on anything I said or did as their first reaction, it taught me to keep secrets, tell lies, and avoid informing them of anything until right before or after it happened. They once wanted me to get a job, so I did. It was full-time, seasonal, and paid well, just a 30-minute drive. They scolded me for not finding something closer, made me call my manager to apologize for wasting their time, and resign. Then they got mad at me for that and made me call back my manager and ask for my job back within 10 minutes. I was 16 or 17 at the time. The next time I got a job, I told them as I was leaving the house to go to the job. It was really frustrating growing up and always expecting a negative reaction right from the start. Story 2. Being outwardly judgmental. I don't ever tell my parents about my music taste, my friends, or a lot of my interests because I know I'm going to get some snide comments if it's not up to their standards. Story 3. Coming into my room a lot and without warning, constantly dragging conversations on to make a point. My mom sometimes tells people personal things about me, which is also annoying. Story 4. They comment on literally everything, to the point where I was scared to listen to music for years because I didn't want my parents to comment on my music taste, which is pretty mainstream, just different from theirs. Whenever we meet someone, they tell me afterwards their thoughts on that person and point out if they had acne, had too long hair, wore a cropped shirt, and so on. They view their comments as harmless observations, but it causes insecurities. Story 5. When I tried to talk about my feelings or the things my mom did that hurt or upset me, she just immediately turns to this distraught, "I'm such a terrible mother," and the whole conversation stops being about me, working through my issues, and listening to my emotions because I have to sidetrack to comfort her. Story 6. My mother does a lot of things I don't like, but one thing that drives me insane is her and my uncles talking about music. Music was so much better when we were young. Now they only make stupid songs you can't even dance to during a party. So glad we were raised on good and artistic music, and so on. Well, since they were children of the 1980s and 1990s, what could that music be? Queen? Nirvana? Whitney Houston? Britney Spears? Maybe something less mainstream? Well, dear people, they are talking about Bryan Adams. They want all the music to sound like Bryan Adams. They think that good music ended with the end of Bryan Adams' career. They think that Bryan Adams was the last truly good musician, and after that, this world has only ever produced the worst songs imaginable. I don't know what else to write. They act like listening to Bryan Adams' songs is this very niche and special thing that youngsters just don't understand, like it's opera or something. I don't have anything against the fact that they like a musician I don't really like, but they are so damn pretentious about it, while telling me to get off of my high horse for listening to music without words. I just like instrumentals. It's absurd. Story 7. My dad often wants to play a game with me, only to spend my entire afternoon trying to get it installed and working on both of our computers, and a lot of the time also trying to fix minor problems that have nothing to do with the game on my computer. Story 8. I can't find that cat. What if she escaped? I can't believe you said that. You're totally going to get bullied. Are you sure you know where your classes are? I know you checked twice already, but check again. Why didn't you respond to my text 15 minutes ago? I was about to call the police. Don't go that far up the driveway. Someone might kidnap you. Those pants look baggier on you. Have you lost weight? Are you sick? What are you hiding from me? Guess who just got diagnosed with anxiety at age 20? Story 9. Tell me that I need to talk out my problems and that they won't be judgmental. Proceeds to belittle me and tell me how I'm selfish and weak for having said problems. Now they wonder why I don't speak to them much. Story 10. I wanted to share something that really helped my relationship with my mom. She always said, "If you tell me the truth, you won't get in trouble and I won't be mad. I'll be mad at the situation, and I expect you to be a part of the process of making it right." This reinforced the idea that if something goes wrong, I should call my mom and not think, "Oh no, my mom can't find out about this." I had many friends who could only call me or my mom because their parents would freak, and I still count my lucky stars that my mom is literally the sanest, most helpful person. I'm so blessed to call her my mom. Story 11. I'm an adult now, but my parents used to have a tendency to say, "She should not be wearing that." When they'd see a plus-sized girl wearing any normal piece of clothing, like a mini skirt, short dress, crop top, or tank top. I'm very thin due to an eating disorder in high school and dated girls until I was 24. The three major girlfriends I had during that time were all heavier than me, and they'd even say it about them, usually immediately after they'd leave the room. My mom is on the heavier side, so I'm sure it was just self-consciousness and lack of confidence on her part, but it drove me nuts. At one point, I remember turning to my mom and saying, "And what should she be wearing?" She didn't have a response. Story 12. My mother always offers to help me, but if I let her, she brings up every individual task she's helped me with the next time she's upset and tells me I've done nothing to deserve her help or her kindness. Now she's angry that I never accept her help, and she doesn't understand why I never take gifts from people before knowing what's expected of me in return. Story 13. I am now in my 20s, but my mom started doing this whenever I was a teenager and still has not stopped. She will say something like, "You are probably going to get mad at me for saying this, but," and then tell me something unnecessarily rude about my appearance or weight that is entirely unhelpful and uncalled for. I have started cutting her off and telling her that maybe she just should not say it then, but it was a lot harder to stand up to her when I was 14. Story 14. When talking about looking for a job, they really think you can just slap your curriculum vitae or resume down on a desk and that's it. It's exhausting. Things have moved on. Story 15. Not a teen, but something my dad said he learned from me when I was a kid was to not compare me and my siblings to other people's kids. Our mom used to always do that. She would constantly say, "Why can't you be more like Name?" It bothered me because it wasn't like she was comparing a bad kid to a good kid. She just had friends whose children were talented in ways that she had hoped we would be. Musically, academically, in sports. We had our own talents and did average in school, but that was still grounds for not being good enough. I felt comfortable telling my dad how hurt I was every time mom said those things. So he said he learned right away to not compare us to others like that. My parents are still married. This all happened under the same household. Story 16. When they make it so that their pain is worse than whatever I have going on. If I have a fever, they have the flu. If I have a headache, they have a headache and a stomachache. If my entire body hurts, theirs makes them want to go into the hospital. My mother likes to make it about herself all the time, and it's made me more prone to anger nowadays. I can't communicate with others because if they somehow do something I don't like, I just get angry immediately. I know for a fact it's because of whatever is going on at home, because when I don't have to think about my family, I'm kinder. Such a messed up family I have. Story 17. Being overly concerned or overly reactive. I never realized how I actively keep information from them because my subconscious is telling me a bad thing, like them overreacting, will happen. I've also developed a habit of lying to them because of this too. Lately, I've been having to caveat by saying, "Okay, don't overreact," but a warning light popped up in the car, and it's just a tire pressure gauge that is malfunctioning. Immediately, my mom has the concerned and full of despair face and says, "Oh my God, what's wrong with it?" And her mind just runs through all the possible and worst things it could be. It stresses me out so much, and I didn't realize it until this past year. Story 18. Change stories about me as a kid. They would often say or do things that would set me off, but they would omit facts to make it sound like I was just a basket case. Story 19. Commenting on people in a judgmental way when said people aren't doing any harm. Every time we see a Kia Soul, "I hate those cars. Buddy, you've never driven one, who cares?" The first time commenting was enough. Story 20. Not a teenager, but still live with my parents. There are a lot of little things that get on my nerves, but the one thing that I absolutely hate is when my mom asks about my day only to immediately start scrolling on her phone, completely ignoring me when I tell her. It's even worse when she randomly starts listening and has no idea what I'm talking about. Worst of all is when I confront her about this. She always denies it. Also, my parents love to play videos on their phone out loud, especially when I'm trying to read or watch something. Story 21. Not organizing their stuff, they proceed to misplace items and then complain they can't find the said items. Like, gee, I don't know, put everything in one spot every time. Story 22. telling me I am angry when I raise my voice but complain they cannot hear me because I am quiet and mumbly. I cannot help constantly talking in a whisper, but if I speak louder, apparently I am being rude. And now I question if I have anger issues or not because everything I do is me being angry, according to them. Story 23. I'm in my early 30s, but my mom still lectures me. I drink any alcoholic beverages. My mom says, "You shouldn't be drinking." I tell her, "Well, you have a bottle of wine, so why can't I drink?" Her response, "I'm older than you, so I know better." Like what? Also, the phone works both ways. But if I don't call her first within 2 days, then I get, "You haven't called. You disappeared. What have you been doing?" Like, I'm not doing anything. And the conversation isn't going to change when I spoke to you yesterday. What did I do today? I worked. Again. Story 24. They talk all the time about how smart I am, as if I were a child prodigy, a Sheldon Cooper. It bothers me because they place too many expectations on me. Story 25. A common thing many teenagers find annoying is when their parents constantly check up on them or invade their privacy, like going through their room or checking their phone. Another issue is when parents give unsolicited advice, especially when they don't understand what you are going through or when it's repetitive. Can feel like they don't trust your decisions or like they're treating you like a child even though you're growing up. Story 26. Not a teen, but now that I am older, a frustration I have is the way they would get annoyed I was doing something imperfectly and then get huffy and take over instead of teaching me the correct way. Despite the fact my mother was an excellent cook, I learned very little about technique or meal planning because she would just take over anytime I struggled. It might have been easier for her in the short term, and it mildly irked me as a kid, but now I feel really stunted in some areas she absolutely could have helped me in with some more patience. Story 27. Not a teenager or close, but this bugged me as a teenager, and it still bugs me now because she hasn't stopped. My mom will make suggestions that aren't suggestions at all. She'll first say it in a kind, ambiguous way. When you thank her but say it's not necessary, she'll repeat it again in a more insistent tone. If you decline again, it usually becomes an order for a teenager, or as an adult, she'll just start martyring herself and making up catastrophes that will happen because I didn't take her advice. Needless to say, I usually wind up giving in out of frustration. Story 28. I am in college, and my mom always refers to the student center as the student union. I told her that it bothers me, and now she does it more. This brings me to a larger point. Parents doing things they know irritate or annoy their child because they think it is funny. It is not. If your child tells you they do not like it when you do something, doing it more will not make them change their mind. Story 29. Turning off the main power every single time I'm not using the appliance because they're afraid the circuits might short and cause a fire. Why haven't we been killed by the fridge, Dad? It's been turned on for 20 years. Story 30. They refuse to let me do anything on my own. I am 27 and am afraid of failure because I was taught it was not an option. I am full of anxiety and am held to the highest standard as the eldest, and I am just so tired. I live on my own and am married in a different state, yet every decision I make on my own is the wrong one in their eyes, no matter what I do. Story 31. Always yells from another floor, "What are you doing right now?" I don't know why he even does this. My dad doesn't care about my life at all. The last time he asked me how my day was when my mom was still around when I was 6. He literally will not speak to me unless it's to tell me to do some chores or something. He always sounds really mad, and it makes me feel like I'm being watched. If I say the same thing too often, he doesn't believe me, so I need to change it up. Story 32. Both of my parents couldn't manage being single. My dad clung to partners like Gorilla Glue, even when it was obvious they were incompatible. He stayed even when one had a guy she was involved with show up at our house in the middle of the night. That guy was her deceased husband's brother, so you can see what a gem she was. My mom never had an actual partner after my dad. She just slept with anyone who would give her attention. But after they stayed the night, she would talk about it for weeks until she realized he wasn't going to reach out again. One of them was her pregnant friend's husband. Story 33. Me and my mom will be talking and I'll say, "That movie was pretty good." I liked it. No. Okay. But I liked it. No. I liked it. No. No. It's not just with movies either. Can be anything. Story 34. Opening a bag of chips when there's already an open bag of the same type and they aren't even stale drives me nuts. Inevitably, a good portion of both bags gets wasted. If they had finished one before opening the other, a lot less would be wasted. Story 35. Right now, I'm on a work holiday. I work with my dad, so we have the same time off. I'm cleaning my room, bathroom, and game room. He won't let me leave the house to see my friends and enjoy my time off until it's clean. I've already wasted an entire week of my time off, which is rare for us, just cleaning. One thing he likes to say is, well, you'd have more time to have fun once it's clean. And he says things like that all the time. I'm honestly getting frustrated because it's my time off, and he's dictating how I can use it. I'm missing time with my friends, and I'm seriously trying not to break down whenever he does that to me. Working full-time and sometimes even on weekends, then having to keep working during my time off is taking a toll. When will it actually be my time off? I'm 22, so I'm not a teenager, but he used to do this when I was younger too.